Good morning, everybody. My name is Emily in Palermo, and today I'm going to be talking a little bit about the African Savanna. For my Biology for Non-Science Majors class, I was tasked with watching British Broadcasting Company Presents Africa, Episode 1, which was called The Savanna. So to go into a little bit more detail, first, we have the location and the geography of the African savanna. It is located in eastern Africa and it takes up about half of the continent, which means it's pretty expansive. It is comprised of a lot of vegetation. However, as you can see from the picture, it is not a forest because the trees are scattered everywhere. We can also consider the African savanna to be an ever-changing land. A little bit more on that. Located in Africa, we do have Mount Nyiragongo. This is considered to be the largest lava lake in the world. It is churning, bubbling, and producing lava about 15 kilometers below the ground, and it is the most active volcano in Africa. The eruptions happen so frequently that they can be seen from outer space. And what's happening beneath the surface is that it is tearing this land apart. It's ripping and pulling and changing the structure. And another thing that Mount Nyiragongo contributes to is the ash from the eruptions creates a carpet of ash across the entire savanna, which allows for the dense vegetation to thrive. Moving along into the climate of the African savanna, it usually experiences warmer temperatures around 68 to 86 degrees Fahrenheit, and it does experience an annual wet and dry season. The wet season being a little bit longer, about 6 to 8 months, and this happens during their summer. And the dry season a little bit shorter, 4 to 6 months, happening during the winter. Now, they will receive rain and thunderstorms, which averages about 10 to 30 inches of rain. And this promotes all of the vegetation that many species use for not only their diets, but their habitats as well, which makes all of the animals have amazing adaptability here. Another part of this ever-changing land, another essential part of the cycle, is the wildfires. Now, these wildfires are responsible for regenerating the grasslands that so many animals have for their diets and, again, habitats. Now, these flames move at about 1,000 degrees and at 80 kilometers per hour, so they are very hot and very fast. Annually, an area larger than Great Britain will burn. Now, as I mentioned before, the savanna does experience dry seasons, and these dry seasons do encourage the wildfires as the dry land and dry grasses will ignite more easily. And also, lightning storms during the dry season also provide for ignition because the lightning will strike the dry ground, again, creating those flames. Now, we're starting to move into and just one fun fact that I would like to add about these wildfires is that some animals will take these flames as an opportunity to hunt because their prey, which is usually consisting of larger animals and larger birds, will have taken cover elsewhere from these flames, and these little birds will be daring enough to go and try and hunt for the flying insects that are escaping the flames. Now, moving along to a few species that are located on the African savanna. These are some that were mentioned in episode 1 of BBC Presents Africa. However, there were tons more. These are the ones that I just found the most interesting, and they could never take the time in one of these episodes to list the hundreds of thousands of species of plants and animals located on the African savanna. So these are the ones that I just thought were really cool. So first we're going to start with the wildebeest. These guys are mammals and they eat a lot of grass, making them herbivores. They can live up to 20 years in the wild and they can grow up to 550 pounds. So these guys are pretty heavy. Now, these animals are herd animals. They travel day and night, night and day. All they're doing is migrating and eating. Once they feel like this patch of grass gets boring, they just move right along to another one. And something that I found really interesting about these guys is that there are 500,000 calves born each year, which definitely contributes to their population. And now these babies learn to walk within hours, so it allows for the constant migration of these herds. They don't really wait for the babies to learn how to walk. Next, we have the Agama Lizard. these guys are some pretty sexually active animals. But before we get into that, we do have the little profile on the right side. These guys are reptiles. They're omnivores. However, they do eat mostly flying bugs, as featured in the video, and they can grow up to 18 inches long. So there's some pretty big lizards. And as you can see in the lower right-hand corner, the males will turn red and blue shades in order to attract females during their mating season, and the females will actually display their reproductive organs and run, whether that's to the males or around the males. Funny thing is, humans, the gender roles reverse here, but these guys prefer to do it a little differently. Now, these guys are also into polygamy, as these males will have up to 6 different mating partners. They are not satisfied with just one. They want to reproduce with as many as possible, and usually that is around 6 or 7 other female Agama lizards. Then we have one of my favorites, the lion. These guys are mammals. They eat a lot of meat, so they are considered carnivores. They can live up to 14 years in the wild, and their size ranges from about 280 pounds being the lighter females and 420 pounds to be the heavier males. So although these cats are considered to be very bad-tempered, that's what they're known for, they are the most social animals out of all of the cat species as they travel around in prides. And something I found interesting was that they can go 4 to 5 days without water. And how they get their hydration is they'll eat other animals' stomachs. So if another animal has consumed water before it had the chance to process it and urinate, the lion will get hydration from the stomach of the animal. And another thing is that they are very, very lazy. Despite all of the hunting they do, they sleep about 16 to 20 hours per day, which is quite a lot. Then we have the mountain gorilla. So these guys aren't located directly on the African savanna. However, the video did mention them as living in the jungle on the other side of the mountains that separate the jungle from the savanna. So I just wanted to include them because I thought some of these facts that I learned were really interesting. So these guys are mammals. They are omnivores. They eat a lot of plants and trees. They can live up to 35 years in the wild. They can grow up to 5 feet tall and weigh 440 pounds. So again, another big animal. Something interesting about the mountain gorilla is that they have shorter arms and longer hair than the other species of primates. So the shorter arms allow them to swing on trees and climb the mountain easier, and the longer hair allows them to adapt to the colder temperatures of the mountain. So as of 2018, the mountain gorilla was listed as an endangered species, and like most animals in Africa, they are subject to poaching as well as deforestation, so loss of habitat. There are a lot of humans that will take their resources from the jungles that they do live in, as well as try and civilize that area of land. Next, we have this funny little bird called the shoebill. Now, with human beings, we do often hear the stories about, oh, mom likes him better than me, mom likes my sister better than me, and although parents won't admit that they have a favorite, they are very, very discreet about it. However, the shoebill, that is not the case. These guys are named for their big shoe-like beak and whale-shaped head. However, they raise only one chick. So if they do have a second chick, it is considered to be the just in case, or the insurance, just in case the older chick does not work out. So yes, these shoebill parents do have their favorites. Now, these guys are birds. They eat smaller birds and fish. They can live up to 25 years old, and they're pretty scary, as their wingspan can get up to 8 feet wide, which is pretty large. Next, we have the hippopotamus, or the hippo. These guys are considered to be mammals. They are herbivores. They can live up to 40 years in the wild, and they can get up to 4 tons, which is very, very, very heavy. So something I found very interesting about the hippopotamus is that the hippo calves are born at about 100 pounds, and they can drink their mother's milk from underwater, and they do this by closing their ears and their noses so that they can suckle from their mom beneath the surface, which is pretty cool. Now, something I did learn is that most people believe that hippos sweat blood, and in fact, this is a myth. It is because their skin secretes an oily red substance, especially in hotter temperatures, that make it seem like they're bleeding from random areas on their body. However, they're not bleeding, they're fine, it's just their skin. And as I mentioned before, the savanna does face a dry season, and hippos will actually battle it out for what little hydration and mud that they can find, because they do get overcrowded and there is not enough water for everybody. So they will battle it out, these guys. And finally, for the animals, my favorite, the elephant. These guys are mammals and they are herbivores. They live up to 70 years old and they can weigh up to 7 tons. So they're old and they're pretty heavy. So talking a little bit more about the dry season. This period of time during the year destroys all aspects of the elephants' lives. So that's the population, the diet, and their habitat. So they are forced to move. And because a lot of their population does pass away, at the end, the elephant bulls, or the alpha males, they will fight to gain power to be the head of the herd. So elephant head weighs about the same as a car. So you can only imagine how powerful these clashes will be. So oftentimes if you see an elephant walking around with only one tusk, that is because A, poaching for the ivory, or because one of them broke off their tusk in a battle. So once the superior bull elephant has been decided, they will mate with all of the females in their herd, and the population will replenish at the end of this dry season. So talking a little bit more about how we can preserve the African savanna and why we should preserve the African savanna. Like most savannas, especially the African savanna, it is rich in biodiversity. There are hundreds upon thousands of animals and plants that are involved in our food chain. And it is also a carbon sink. And what this means is that these grasslands absorb the carbon dioxide that is coming from our air on the earth, and they maintain the earth's temperature. So that's a really crucial factor that the savanna provides us with. And we should definitely, and you can also get involved with organizations like the Singita and definitely learn more about them. You can donate to them, and sometimes they will even hire interns. The Singita is an organization that builds eco lodges on the Singita is an organization that builds eco lodges on the African savanna. So not only do they use sustainable practices, but they do employ locals. Now, on your left, you can see a wildlife conservationist protecting these elephants at a watering hole because he knew poachers were nearby, and he has some cohorts elsewhere around the watering hole to make sure that these elephants are safely able to get a drink of water. And now, what can individuals do to help this habitat? What can I do as an individual to help this habitat? So although I am from Long Island, New York, and not Africa, I can still take part and protect the grasslands where I live. And this is because grasslands and expansive areas of vegetation all act similar to the savanna. There are hundreds of species living there of plants and animals, and they also do continue to act as that carbon sink. So it's really important that wherever you live, any expansive area of vegetation, you protect it. Another thing that we as individuals can do to help is educate yourselves. Education is probably one of the most important things when preserving climates and preserving environments for not only animals, but the plants as well. Being able to know whether or not you are living a sustainable life, if you can stop someone from doing something completely anti-environmental, that is insanely important. So education is probably one of the most important things that you can do. And finally, we can encourage sustainability, whether that's using a reusable water bottle or picking up trash, even recycling, small things like that. In New York, where I live, it is a 5-cent per plastic bag at the grocery store. So if you do forget your reusable bags, they will charge you 5 cents for every plastic bag that you do use. So that's just one of the ways that sustainability has impacted my life already. So hopefully by doing some of these practices and learning a little bit more about organizations like Singita, we can preserve the savanna and create an everlasting home for these plants and animals. So that concludes my presentation on the African savanna. I hope you enjoyed learning about all of the different climate changes, land changes, and especially my favorite, the animals. On the next 2 slides, you will find my works cited page, and have a nice day. Thank you.